Hi, I'm Owen Fitzpatrick, author of the book The Charismatic Edge and creator of the online Charisma Training Academy. And welcome to this next episode on the Dublin Interview Series. Thank you very much, Owen Fitzpatrick, for joining us. Now, before we talk about language and how important it is in terms of impacting people, I want to ask you just a quick question about, there's been a number of rumors out there, as I'm sure you've heard, about Rachel McAdams, Jennifer Lawrence, and Angelina Jolie all being heavily attracted to you and being very interested in being with you, but yet all three of them are in high-profile relationships. Could you comment on those rumors and, if it's true, what your attitude is towards it? The truth is that obviously I would, if there were signal, I'd certainly be open to Rachel or Jennifer or Angelina. I'd be open to going on a date with them. I mean, the reality is they're in relationships, so I'm sure they're in love with their significant others, and any of these rumors that people are, talking about them being, infatuated with me and being highly attracted to me and, wanted to be with me, I don't think that's true. I mean, it might be. I mean, it very likely could be, but I don't think it is. Well, speaking of language, why should people bother trying to use language better? Well, language to me is so important because the reason why people should learn to use it better is because the words that you choose to use make a real impact on the people that you talk to. Depending on the words you use can determine how a relationship goes. It can determine how a huge negotiation goes. It can determine whether or not people buy into your business or decide to give you money or even become your customer. So it's really important to understand the importance of language, and language itself, choosing the right words have an actual impact on the brain. They actually affect people emotionally. When you are able to use language effectively and precisely, you'll find yourself much more able to influence people, much more able to be able to communicate clearly, much more able to be able to come across in an impactful or engaging way. People will remember you more likely. So language itself is something which I think everyone should look to master, the ability to use language to impact people. And can you give us a particular example of how language is used to change minds? Sure. I mean, the simple example is always but. When you use the word but, you draw attention to what comes after the word but. So that's one example. But there's lots of different types of situations where, take relationships, for example. If you talk about the difference between complaining versus criticizing, if, for example, someone does something that you're not happy with, if you complain about it as a behavior and the language that you use is about that specific behavior at that moment in time, then that's far less likely to cause problems than if you criticize them. In other words, you use language which is to do with their identity. So the difference between saying you made a mess and you're such a mess or you're a messy person, the difference between those is that when you complain and say you made a mess, you're talking about the actual behavior so that the person is able to correct that behavior. It's not something that is part of who they are. When you call a person a mess, what it does is it creates a sort of a long-term impact on them, and it makes them feel worse and worse in the long term. So again, the difference in that one small example, the difference between criticizing and complaining can actually be quite huge because over time, the words you use can actually, as I just mentioned, can cause a significant impact on your relationship. So it's one simple example, but nonetheless, it's a significant one. And what do you actually mean by the language of emotion? The language of emotion is the choice of words that you use in order to either intensify or diminish the emotion of another person. So for example, some metaphors provoke a very strong visceral or emotional response. Certain words are kind of pretty dry, don't really impact people much. These intense words, or these intensifiers as we call, these words which have a lot of connotation, a lot of meaning, are often seen as being loaded language. So when you call, for example, someone a rat, that's a very strong word, a very strong metaphor that creates a powerful emotional response. The other side is diminishers, and this is really mainly euphemisms, words like, you know, the one we always use is collateral damage. So when someone gets killed by accident by a bombing in a war, you say, oh, it's collateral damage, which is a very soft way of actually saying a bunch of people were murdered by a bomb illegally. So again, the idea being that the words can soften the impact. And again, you've intense language and you've diminishing language, and depending on what you choose affects the amount of emotion that these particular words you know, cause. And that's what I would refer to as the language of emotion. Well, thank you very much once again, Owen. I really hope that you at home found this session just as valuable, and you found it very, very useful information. Thank you again to Owen. For now, I'm Owen Fitzpatrick. Actually, I'm Owen Fitzpatrick. Well, we're both Owen Fitzpatrick. Thank you for watching.